Welcome everyone, this is your host Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. First of all, this channel is proudly sponsored by Rome, the historical role-playing game. Experience the glory and decadence of Rome like never before. You will find it in the description and in the pinned comments. This channel is also proudly partnered with the What the Funk shop. Please check out their store for all sorts of products. They have dice, miniatures, game master screens, home decorations, and many other things. You will find the link in the description and in the pinned comment as well. And make sure that you use my code for a special discount. A moment, please, while I maximize. Here we go. Maximize. Tonight, I want to talk about something that is actually considerably easier than expected. Some people could look at it as if it's very difficult to do, but it's about preparation in tabletop RPGs, preparing for a session. First, let's talk about the player's side of things. It's considerably easier for a player when compared to a game master to prepare for the next session. After all, your responsibility lies on your player character, keeping track of your spells, items, devices, weapons, hit points, your special abilities, powers, but you only have to think about that single player character and the connections that player character makes with the game world. As simple as that. Perfect, right? But then, oh, the camera, it's a bit of adjustment. Oh, there we go. Okay. But then, in the case of the game master, it becomes a bit more involved, but it's still quite. It's not as hard as some would think. I would even say it's quite easy once you grasp the essence of it. I will give you some general tips and advice. Various videos, articles, and whatnot, whatnot have already covered these sorts of things. So I'll try to tackle like the very essentials. First of all, you don't need to prepare everything beforehand. That is, when the player characters are exploring a specific section of the game world, you don't need to prepare anything else aside from the adventure sites that they could move into during the next session. And you could be thinking, well, what if they decide to take like a long trip and they end up very far away in a place that I'm not ready to run? As I always say, roleplay solves everything. If you know about the game world and you as a game master, dungeon master, you are not only playing the role of a single character, you are playing the role of the entire world. You are the world. So once you get into that notion, it's very easy for you to come up with the structures, the monsters, the social encounters, the battles, everything on the fly, on the go, because you know about your game world. You know the sort of architecture. You know the types of threats that are within that world. So in that case, you only need to prepare beforehand in the sense of having a solid foundation. What are the sort of threats alive or undead or natural or unnatural in the world? What sorts of natural hazards? What sorts of enemies, creatures, predators? Once you have an understanding of the sort of things that cover an entire zone, you are set. You don't need to come up with a bunch of stat blocks and whatnot. As long as you have your beast theory, or maybe it's a very simple system where perhaps even a single value represents a single enemy or a group of enemies, you only need to take that into consideration. The sorts of threats in a zone. What about the villages, the cities, the towns? Again, Is it like a feudal system? Is it a bit more like the late Renaissance? Is it sci-fi setting with a city that looks very similar to our current real life cities? Use those as examples and do not rush. There is no rush. Once the players go into a place that you were not prepared for, or rather, that you prepared very little, once they go into that section, you don't need to handle things like a sort of race, like, oh, no, no, I did, yeah, and you enter, you go, and you find a huge town. No, it's a mother town. No, don't rush things. The players make it past the forest of the red acre before you. You see a landscape covered in green with a few drops of yellow scattered among the flowers and the fruits of trees you have never seen before. In the middle of this green landscape, you see the palisade of a town previously unmarked. You have never seen it in any of your maps. Two guards stand flanking the entrance. Two huge wooden doors are closed, and the guards are outside speaking with two travelers dressed in the clothes of middle class merchants. They have a wagon pulled by a donkey behind them, small wagon. You see, you just take your time. Take your time using your solid foundation of your understanding of the game world. The only thing that you need to prepare for is to have a solid grasp of the game world. Like I said, a general overview. That is pretty much it. And from then, from that solid foundation, you can tackle more specific things. Maybe you are considering, well, in a sci-fi world, in a sci-fi setting, the player characters have already negotiated with this guild over here. So they are probably going to go into the abandoned pirate base near the coast and explore the technological installations to see if they can find the proper circuitry and the chips that the guild is interested in acquiring, right? In obtaining. So then you can add more details, you can create your maps, you can come up with some encounter stat blocks, but everything else, if the player characters are unlikely to take that on, if they are unlikely to go out into outer space and visit a nearby planetoid, that is unlikely, right? Not impossible, but unlikely. Don't waste your time. As long as you know more or less what sorts of planetoids are in that section of the galaxy, you can improvise everything. And I still recommend that you prepare, like I said, with a solid grasp of the game world, because if you do not prepare, then improvisation is going to be lackluster. Throughout the years, I have seen many game masters that are caught in the act of using a TV series or a movie for the plotline of their adventures. About 18, 19 years ago, I actually spoke to a guy that it was in a site that I would rather not mention because it became incredibly politically driven. And he mentioned that he always used Scooby Doo episodes for adventures. Like whenever he had to improvise a session, he would use a Scooby Doo episode. And no wonder that his players always solved that thing because they probably recognize the episode, who knows? Even if you think, well, my players are unfamiliar with this series, this cartoon, this whatever, this book, and you use the plot line for that, for your adventure, that movie, whatever, Sometimes media tends to recycle stuff. So there's a pretty good chance the players may end up identifying the situation, the problem, the mystery, the whatever, and they may end up conquering the adventure in a very disappointing way, figuring out everything beforehand. So when it comes to preparation, they usually have this stereotype of, oh, the game master with all sorts of books and charts and mapping and apps, all sorts of software, preparing the. You only need that for a few very specific areas where you think that the players are going to move into as their player characters. The rest, you just need, like I said, a solid foundation of the game world, and roleplay will solve everything. You are the dungeon master, the game master. You are the game world. Roleplay solves everything. I hope this video was informative and entertaining. Let me know your thoughts on this on preparation. Do you think it's very difficult? Do you prefer to prepare things in a very loose way? In fact, you could say that's another error. Some people think that preparation could be just always writing stuff down. Depending on the system and your style, preparation could be just you sitting down and reading a book about the game world that you are running, or just coming up with ideas, mentally preparing for that session, and then you are good to go. You don't need to write anything. As long as you have mastery of the system and the game world, mastery as in, I know more or less what the game world is about, and I know more or less how to roll things, how to come up with stats and target numbers and whatnot. So thank you once again, and thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, consider joining as a member using the super thanks button. Take a look at the information in the description and in the pinned comment. This has been your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. And remember, roleplay solves everything. Once again, thank you and see you later.